Without a shadow of a doubt, it's the Crockett Show in social media history. I want to welcome you to another episode of the War Zone. Tonight we got two heavyweights in the building, but you know every night is me, and I am the five-star general. Education is a mess in the United States of America, but I got two people from Fort Bend County that say they gonna sit on the school board and fix the problem. Tonight we gonna interview McClue and Rick Garcia, and we gonna see what it's really about. Y'all hold on a second and let's get started. Say, man, I want to welcome you to another episode of the War Zone and tell you thank you for taking the time out to tune in with your favorite African American conservative. And I'm not afraid to say it, but you know what it is, man. Well, I'm gonna start it off tonight, man. We heard that Kevin Samuels died, controversial figure as it pertains to women. YouTube blogger, major figure, millions of followers, and a lot of people, didn't agree with some of the things Kevin said, and some of the things were just some hard truth. But I tell you what, regardless if you agreed with him or not, pray for his family, and that's what we should all do. Oh man, I'm gonna tell you, I've been out all day. I'm an education advocate. I've been out all day dealing with schools, and look like business is good for me right now. As long as the school system stay messed up, I'm gonna stay busy. Well, hopefully in Fort Bend County, that is not an issue anymore. And I got like 3 calls from Fort Bend today because we have 2 highly qualified individuals that are going to run. They are actually running for school board. And I think that they would be the perfect fit. I'm going to endorse both of them. And that's a hard endorsement to get from me. Some say I'm the best education advocate in Texas. Some say I'm the best in the country. So who better than 5-star to interview somebody that's running for school board? I'm going to take the time out. Let's get them unmuted. Let's make sure they are unmuted. And we're going to let McClue introduce herself and tell the people what you're running for.
Hello, everyone. My name is McClue. I'm from Louisiana. I'm running for position 7, Fort Bend ISD School Board Trustee.
Okay. Mr. Garcia?
My name is Rick Garcia. I'm running for Fort Bend ISD for position number 3. I'm a former educator. My wife is a teacher, actually for Fort Bend ISD, and I have 2 boys that attend Fort Bend ISD schools, a freshman and a 5th grader. And I'm running for to solve all the problems we're having with all the discipline and the distractions in our classroom. Teachers are leaving the profession in record numbers, and it's gotten a little out of control. And a lot of my dear friends, former coworkers and colleagues are leaving the profession. They're retiring early, and it's heartbreaking. So that's one of the main reasons I'm here for our students and our teachers who are overworked and overburdened in our classrooms. Thank you all so much for having me.
Oh man, anytime. Okay, so this is an interactive show, and people in the audience will actually ask questions, and I'll read them, or either I'll post them, and you get to answer those questions. Far better, and I've run for school board, far better than sitting at a forum for 3 hours and only getting to speak for 2 minutes. The people don't really get to know you, but tonight they're going to get to know you, and I've already got some people from Fort Bend because I'm looking at different streams. We're streaming to 8 different platforms, and that also includes Twitter as well as YouTube. So we're going to crank it up. I'm going to ask y'all some serious questions. And the first thing, we'll start off with Shell. What the hell is wrong with education in Fort Bend County? Because I lived in Fort Bend for 12 years, and I've never seen the educational component at the level that it's at now. What is going on in Fort Bend?
What's going on is that the focus isn't on education. As big as our district is, we have great people in place to educate our students, but it's not being distributed equally across the entire district. The emphasis, we're building beautiful schools, Yet we still have, schools that need improvements, that the improvements have never happened or not happening. We have schools that are still empty. And I wouldn't say completely empty because there's students there, but they're absolutely not, being leveraged to capacity. Yet we're constantly building new schools and overcrowding those schools. It's just not making sense. And then when it comes to educating these students, they're getting left behind because all the emphasis is on these beautiful schools in the communities that we keep developing.
Rick, same question. What is going on in education in Fort Bend ISD?
So, former educator here. My wife's a teacher. It's been a very rough last couple of years. The district has been in decline for several years, probably dating back to 2017, 2018. The discipline in our classrooms has gotten a little out of control. It's gotten a little bit worse. And then when COVID hit, it made it worse. So the problems are already, we were in a decline, and the pandemic masked the problem, no pun intended, but it actually hid a lot of what was really going on. Teachers are losing control of their classroom. It's added burden on top of the things that they already have to do with the additional paperwork, with their SPED logs, having to do the SPED logs every single day, daily, fill them out. They used to come pre-filled out. Now they have to fill those out every single day for every single class, for every single child. The amount of workload is just insurmountable. And then you pile on having to deal with bullying and getting cussed out in class from kids, or kids walking off and running off and doing their own things and getting in fights at school and then coming back into class 20 minutes later after a timeout. The distractions are out of control. It affects the kids that want to be there, that want to learn, and their grades are suffering as a result of it. So in general, we regain control of our classrooms, and then our teachers will feel a little bit more respected. Our kids overall will start performing better because academic performances across the board are down. COVID also is a part of that problem. But we flip that and regain control of our classrooms. Tell the kids they need to understand that there's no more discipline without consequences. Was what the policies that they have in place is what's been going on. So, and it's not working. It hasn't worked for a long time.
Okay. Well, Shell, we know for a fact that in Fort Bend ISD, there's major inequities as it pertains to education. And to me, it's like there's two worlds of Fort Bend ISD. There's two worlds of Fort Bend ISD. You have the affluent side and you have the poor side. And the kids on the poor side seem not to get the support that they actually need. So being a trustee, what policies would you champion to help close the achievement gap?
The biggest thing is having these kids that have to, the programs that they have in place. Like there's tons of great programs in place, but you have to test for those. So they only taking basically the cream of the crop and giving them the opportunities. They're not allowing all children the same opportunity to these programs. And that is where the unfairness comes. Just because, some students have a higher grade average, it doesn't necessarily mean that they are more or will be more successful when they graduate than the next person. So we have to start taking that off, or taking that focus off on these kids and start motivating them. If they know that, or they feel that, hey, I'm not going to have this type of grade, so they're not even motivated to move forward to the programs that we have in place to keep them from where they are. Focusing on these schools and just trying to keep them under that same umbrella is the biggest problem that I'm seeing. Because that's when they start pulling away programs. They give them things and then they're not advancing as fast enough as they want to. So then they move on to the next thing. So instead of using them as test subjects, set them up to be successful in the beginning.
I actually like that answer. Same question, Rick. How do we close that achievement gap?
So, one of the things that I've talked about with a lot of folks that are experts in the industry, former retired teachers, retired principals, is a lot of the programs that we have. We're spending a lot of money on programs and software and all these different things, and it ends up becoming a waste because it gets into the classroom and they're not utilizing the technology, or they're not utilizing the programs properly. They're not properly trained. Teachers don't know how to use this. They, in addition to the many things that they're doing, here's a new program that you can give your kids access to. Go and use this program, and we should change. Everybody should start. Performances should start going up. It really doesn't work like that. So you can't just roll out uh, these types of things and expect teachers to just turn on a dime and just learn it and then be able to explain it. Some things are a little bit more user friendly than others, but then some things you really need a better understanding and a um, more level of training. And I call it user adoption in the IT field. So at that level, when they roll out a lot of this new technology, they don't get a whole lot of training. So that's a problem in and of itself. And at Title I schools in general, they get more funding because they're a Title I school, so they qualify for more funding. So it's all about working smarter, not harder, making sure that we're finding the right opportunities, the right early literacy programs. Uh, One of the best ways to close the learning gap is to make sure our kids are reading, and the best way to is or advocate at the state level for pre-K for everybody, not just those that qualify, but pre-K for all of our kids. Early identification of kids that require special services. I've heard some heartbreaking stories from parents who said that my child was just recently diagnosed with dyslexia, and so I'm so sorry to hear that. What grade is she in? And they say, well, she's in seventh grade or he's in seventh grade. And like, wow, it took them that long to figure out that your child has dyslexia. So things like that, you obviously you're gonna miss a few, but the early identification is key. But at the same time, the schools are struggling because our sped teachers are leaving in record numbers, and those are the ones that we need on the front lines, making sure that we're not missing any of our kids. None of our kids are getting missed out. So.
All right, Shell. You become a trustee. I already know how I would answer the question. One of the biggest jobs, well, actually, trustees realistically only have four job assignments. And a lot of people don't realize that. They'll get to asking you questions in forums that in all actuality you would tell a lie if you answer them. You only really have like four job assignments as a trustee. And you only have sometimes maybe one or two employees, which should be the superintendent and the internal auditor. Biggest question I think that I don't even think anybody asked you out on the campaign trail. How do you hold a superintendent accountable in a district that's in decline?
You hold a superintendent accountable by doing just that. Um, Looking at everything as a whole and working on performance improvement. Um, Looking at the goals, everything that that superintendent said they were going to do, lining up on what hasn't been done, and then working on, okay, how are we actually going to fix this, and setting a timeline. If it has not been met by that timeline, and we've addressed it more and more and over again, then it's time to move forward. But we can't just keep letting and keep waiting and keep holding hands. We have to get things done. We can't allow 70,000 students on top of staff, faculty, everyone to fail by waiting on one person to catch up.
Rick, your question is gonna Shell gave you the blueprint. So if the superintendent is not giving you the results, how do you handle it?
As a whole, it's not a year over year decision. It takes some time to get things back on track. Now, I think what one of the top performance metrics is obviously how we're performing in our schools. And I'm not just talking about STAR. We use STAR as a measure, but we're talking about our REN 360 scores. You talk about also another important metric is student enrollment. So if enrollment is going up and we're regaining control of our classrooms and teachers are happy, then it's like customer service. So if you have bad customer service, more than likely that you're going to go and tell everybody that you had very bad customer service is very likely. Not a lot of people say when they have good services in the airline industry, if you have a delayed flight because of weather, it's the airline's fault. It's not God's fault because of the weather, it's the airline's fault. So the same thing goes for the school district. Now, if the school district is performing and we're regaining control of our classrooms and everybody's starting to, that happy index starts to go back up, then the reputation starts to go back up, and then more students start re-enrolling their kids because they start to hear that Fort Bend ISD is actually a school district that I might want to have my kids go to. So if enrollment starts to go back up, which over the last couple of years due to COVID, they said it has gone down. But if Katy, a comparable school district, their enrollment has gone up and Lamar's enrollment has gone up, why is Fort Bend ISD's enrollment going down? It's going back up now, but it's not up to what they were anticipated previously. So that's one of the reasons why they're in a budget shortfall. So you take that metrics and you say, well, we're failing as a district. And at the time, we didn't have a superintendent. So now that we do have a superintendent, there's a little bit more stability. We're starting to see a little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel, but there's still a lot of problems in the classrooms. And that's where I come into play to bring out that awareness. A lot of the teachers and the parents are just screaming for help, and it's going in one ear and out the other with some of our people that are on the school board, because at the end of the day, it makes their numbers look good. So if you're not reporting instances, you're not referring kids, it's because our numbers look great. Well, it's because you're not reporting them. So it's the same as if the city said that we solved the problem with speeding. There's no more speeding in the city. But come to find out, they don't give out speeding tickets anymore. People are still speeding, but nobody's getting tickets. So that's the same thing that's going on in our district. So you take a lot of that and you see the enrollment, you see our academic performances are going back up. Then we start to build that reputation, and then we can hold our principal or superintendent accountable by using those metrics and those numbers. And that's when they have their performance reviews with the superintendent. With the trustees, they get together and they do those reviews and they make sure that those metrics were headed in the right direction. And if we're not, that's when we have to sit down and figure out how we can course correct it, get with the E team and figure out what we need to do to bring those numbers back up to where we need them to be, so everybody is on the same page. We've really got to be on the same page with this.
Well, I'm gonna tell y'all something. This is what I feel. I might be totally wrong. I believe that school districts like HISD and Fort Bend ISD, where the enrollment is declining, the pandemic exposed them. The pandemic exposed the inequities. It exposed the way that these districts actually operated. It exposed the fact that they were not really supporting the kids that needed the most support. So a lot of parents decided to pull their children and send them over to Lamar. You see what I'm saying? Decided to send them to other school districts or to private schools. In a community like Fort Bend, which is a very diverse community, one of the more diverse communities in the country, a lot of people are not hurting for money. So, a lot of people can't afford to send their children to private schools. And I just think that the school districts have been exposed by the pandemic to a point where people figured out that their kids were not getting a quality education. Now, let's really dig off into this thing. Now, being a school board trustee, you're going to have to make some real tough decisions. And one of the toughest decisions that you have to make, and it seems like Fort Bend doesn't have a problem doing that, but yet at the same time, they still have a budget shortfall, is constantly increasing taxes. Now, nobody wants their taxes increased. I don't think either one of you do. So how do we deal with these budget shortfalls? Because this is my opinion. I believe that every school district has enough money to operate on a yearly basis. There's a lot of wasteful spending that goes on. A lot of friends getting a lot of overtime when they shouldn't get it, stuff like that. A lot of days we're fighting lawsuits and we're losing when we shouldn't even fought the lawsuit in the first place. How do we deal with the shortfall, but yet not increase these people taxes? Shell McClue.
Certainly. So we've spent a lot of money during the pandemic as a district, a lot of money that should not have been spent. Most of our kids were not even on campus. We spent a lot of money preparing, for COVID on things that we didn't even use. All that money went to contractors. We're still spending money that's going to contractors in excess. A lot of these costs could be eliminated. If not all the way eliminated, it absolutely can be brought down to where we can use more money into the district as we need to. You're right. We are getting a lot of money in the school district, over $700 million. There's no reason why our deficit should be like it is, especially being that we had almost 2 years where the world almost paused, literally, where we had time to figure it out and get it right. But instead, we just kept overspending and overspending and overspending. And that's a huge problem here.
I know Rick has to go, so that'll leave me and you, Shell. But Rick, same question.
Yeah, no.
How do you deal with the deficit, but yet not increase these taxes?
Yeah, so I'm grateful that Dr. Whitbeck brought back Steve Bassett as deputy superintendent. He's our former CFO, and he's one of the select few that have that knowledge on public school finance that in the entire state of Texas. So I'm very optimistic that when I get on the school board, that we're working together with them and the rest of the trustees, we can figure it out and move on a path forward. The problem over the years is they have had a spending problem. As Ms. McClue alluded to, they spent $22 million on contact tracing, which a comparable district in size, Katy ISD, actually a lot much larger, about 10,000 more students. They did all their contact tracing in-house. They didn't spend any federal money on that. So you take that and add that into the problems that the district has, which is causing kids to leave, and you're at a $50 million deficit. And you take a lot of the spending that they've done. They spent $2 million on software for intervention for the kids that did not perform well on STAR tests. So a lot of the students, even to this day, teachers are telling me that they're still not even using that software. We spent $2 million on software to help catch kids up on STAR, which kids didn't do well on STAR last year anyway because it didn't even count. So we're spending money to help kids do better on a test that didn't count last year when they took it. So there was really no motivation to do well on it. So they're sitting on money. I really hope they don't renew that software next year. That's an example of money there. And I'm in the IT industry, and I've never ever had a situation where we had money left over because our bosses would come to us and say, we've got about $20 million left on our budget. We've got 2 months left to go. We need to spend that money. And I've heard them several times in school board meetings when trustees would ask, well, what happens if, we don't hire all these people, or if we don't buy this software, you've got all this money in the budget for it. Well, and I've heard them say more than once, well, if we don't use the money, we will give it back. And I'm like, what planet does that ever happen when you have money left over? They're never going to give money back. So the trustees that's when the trustees need to come together and say, well, you're not going to get that money. There's not a chance that you're going to spend it, or you're going to spend it on some things that we may need. We're not going to give you approval to spend that money. We're going to hold back a lot of that. So I think that is where we've got a little bit of a spending issue the last several years. So whereas my opponent has been touted as very good at managing our money, he's also gotten really good the last couple of years of spending it. So that's been a huge problem. So
Well, I tell you this because I know you got to go, and I'll say it for you. We've not talked about this. Your opponent does a good job on a daily basis of making sure other school districts run properly, but yet his school district is struggling. He makes tons of money off HISD and all these other school districts around here, and at the same time, you can tell them how to spend their money and what to do, but yet you're falling behind in Fort Bend ISD. Remind the people, Rick, what position you're running for
I'm
so
running
that they
for,
can go out tomorrow and vote for you.
yes, sir. I'm running for position 3, Fort Bend ISD Board of Trustees. My first time ever running for anything. I'm a HOA president in my neighborhood. I'm on the mud board where I live, and I've just been a very active and involved parent for 10 years, and I serve on various different district level committees. I was a 2019 graduate of the Fort Bend ISD Board Leadership Academy. So I actually have training from the district, from trustees, former trustees, even from my opponent, on all matters of how the district operates, how we run as a district, public school finance, transportation, logistics, safety, security, and oh, by the way, how do we educate our kids? How do we advocate for our kids at the state level? I've gone to Austin to advocate for our kids in 2019 when they passed the House bill. They gave all of our teachers a raise. The Fort Bend ISD got a nice $4,000 raise, thanks to the state of Texas and our legislators. So I look forward to continuing that fight for our teachers and for our students in the classroom.
I really appreciate you taking the time out, Rick. I know you got to go.
Yes, sir.
But
Thank you so much.
Sure,
yeah,
you make sure y'all go out tomorrow and you vote for Rick Garcia.
Thank
and
y'all so much.
He's running against Jim Rice, and it's time for Jim to go home. It's time for some new blood in Fort Bend. Take it easy, Rick.
Thank you so much. Have a good one. Bye, Shell.
All right. All right, Shell, it's you and me, one-on-one. You with 5-star. And let's get on to it. Here it is. Fort Bend is a mess.
Yes.
One of the strongest board members in Fort Bend ISD, regardless of what anybody ever thinks, is Danita Williams. Danita understands finance. She's not afraid to hold people accountable. And I think a lot of days, she gets a lot of flack for that. But
Right.
I think we need board members that are not afraid to walk on eggshells, that will call a spade a spade. And here's a question, because people want to know. When you win, will you be as accessible to your constituents as you were when you were running? And when you win, will you go in and become silent, or will you stand up for the people?
That's a great question. So I'm very transparent, which is one of the issues that I have as a mom. I have 8 kids in this district, and the transparency isn't there. So absolutely, I will be accessible, and I will stand up, and I will be loud. And I don't mean loud as in screaming, but I will, my presence will be known as far as what we're standing for and what we're fighting for, because it is important. We can't continue to allow our kids to be treated this way. Our kids, they think we don't care as parents because the district isn't making any improvements. And we do care. And they, some of them feel the teachers don't care, the administrators don't care. Someone has to put a stop to this. These kids are our kids. They're our future. They're the ones that's going to take care of us when we get old. So we have to make sure that what they're getting right now sets them up to do just that. But if we're allowing the district to just continue to shun our kids, to shun us, then we're doing disjustice here. And we can't just let it keep happening because it has happened. Everyone, they've been there before. They've been doing it for years. Okay, but all the years you've been doing this is what we have. Congratulations, you've been volunteering. Congratulations, doing this, doing that. But the change has not happened. It's time for the change to happen.
Hey, I love your enthusiasm. All right, we know that we're losing a lot of teachers on a daily basis across the country, as well as Fort Bend ISD. And one of those reasons that teachers are leaving the classroom is because those classrooms have become very, very unsafe. They have become unsafe for the teachers. They become unsafe for the students. Being a board member that can create policy, that can introduce new policy, how or what do you think we need to do to regain the discipline in Fort Bend ISD so that our teachers can feel safe in the classroom as well as our students?
Absolutely. So, as far as the discipline measures that we have, um, like Mr. Garcia said, some kids they get a timeout, but not all kids get a timeout. Some kids get put out immediately without being questioned. And our kids are smarter than when we were in school. We didn't have social networks. We didn't, the word didn't get out like this. It was when we got home where the word got out. So if you have a student at this school that's getting disciplined in a way, the hashtag goes out. And if they're getting disciplined a different way at another school, the hashtag goes out. So they're seeing that. So the kids, they also have an advantage. So when we're putting out these policies, we need to look at it as a whole, making sure that what we're doing, if the discipline measures is this way at one school, is the same at the other school. It's the same for the students, regardless of, their backgrounds. Of course, students that have mental health issues, that's a different story. That's not who I'm addressing. But whenever we put our policies out, it has to be equal. And I'm realizing that it's not. There is no fairness when it comes to discipline. And that's why some kids are getting over and they're going to keep doing it. And then you have, some, they get stopped right away. So that's what we have to do. We have to stop dropping the ball and making sure that if we say this is what our policy is, that we stand and back our policy.
I appreciate that answer. I think that you're right. Some kids get thrown out immediately, and some kids get the slap on the hand. And a lot of days, and we're just going to be honest, the suspension rate of African American kids, especially in Fort Bend, is alarming compared to other races. It's alarming. But yet at the same time, there has to be some fairness. We have to level the playing field. It's no getting around that. When you become a trustee, and I'm listening, and I saw something today that I pulled up Jim Rice. He's not your opponent. And Jim was one of his campaign slogans or whatever. His mantra of his campaign mantra is, working with the team of 8. Now, why does that sound familiar with me? That sounds familiar because I hear him talking about the team of 10 in HISD. So that takes me to the Texas Association of School Boards, as well as the National Association of School Boards, who I feel are indoctrinating school board trustees to conduct themselves and run these school systems a certain way. And to me, they're running them into the ground. Will you become a puppet, or will you stand on your own too? Because in order to be an effective school board representative, you have to be willing to walk the line. And that means that you may go against your constituents. I always tell the people that's running, as well as myself when I ran, I'm not in the business to make friends. I'm in the business to get it done. So what is your ideologies on maybe some days you might not agree with your constituents on something, but at the same time, you work for those kids and those teachers. How do you handle that?
Absolutely. So I understand that this is bigger than me. What I'm doing, it's not about me personally. It's about what needs to be done. No, I'm not a puppet. I never have been, and I never will be. I don't aspire to be. I'm here to help get the job done. Yes, I am a team player. At the same time, we have to focus on what we have to focus on. This is a job. this job requires a lot. It requires, of course it's volunteer work, but it's still a task at hand. And it requires a lot from us. Our decisions impacts thousands. Every decision that we make. And if we're doing it just for our own benefit, it's going to come out, especially when we have activists like you. It's going to come out. And that's why I'm here. It's time for that to stop. Because we see what it's doing. And everyone is kind of just sitting back and allowing it. If you watch the board meetings, you see exactly what's going on. You see the chaos. You see that there's not real order going here. And everything that they're saying is going to pass. It's not happening. It's not being. And I'm not going to keep playing the fiddle. Get information. We have to make these changes. So going in there, knowing that, and I'm going to continue to do that.
Well, here's the thing. Let's. You're doing good. I like your answers and I like your enthusiasm. And I'm gonna tell y'all right now, she ain't gonna be no punk. She gonna stand up for them. She already got to stand up for 8 of them every day. So I think a lot of days, because we have all these people with all these degrees that sit on the school board, and a bunch of these people that sit on the school board with all these degrees are normally, a lot of them are just dumb as a bag of rocks. I'm gonna be honest, because school board decisions are basically common sense decisions. You see what I'm saying? And I think if we use common sense and we bring it into the boardroom, we can get things done and get things moving. I think you have 2 opponents. What separates you? What makes you different than your 2 opponents?
Well, first of all, I am new. I'm new to the district. So I didn't grow up in, Fort Bend County. And also, I was a truck driver for a very long time. I just came off the road during the pandemic so that I can actually help and teach my kids because they couldn't do it by themselves. I'm also a teacher. I teach, higher education. So not the little kids, the adults, 18 and plus. I'm not big on politics. I don't have any cliques in the area. I'm affiliated with my children and their friends and their friends' friends. That's why I'm here. They say the parents need to step up. I'm the parent that's stepping up. And I want to see change in a positive way for all of our kids. So not just, Black and brown kids or the Asian kids or, Hispanic kids, everyone. We all need this change.
Let me ask you a question. I'm glad you said that because a lot of people just advocate for kids of their own race. Some people advocate according to their political affiliations. I really hate Fort Bend elections because some of them start off nonpartisan, and then they all of a sudden you got partisan politics involved. And I also know that running for office in Fort Bend can be some of the messiest stuff you've ever seen in your life. People cutting signs down, people on social media, trying to drag you. How has you being new to politics, how has the experience been for you as an African-American woman running in this school board race in an environment that is not as nice as some people think?
Absolutely. So I was a little naive to the fact of how political it is here in Fort Bend when it comes to school board districts. I have, my signs, they disappeared. I'm constantly reordering to replace them. I have, had people approach me, on social media about certain things. I've been accused of certain things, which no one had any proof of. And then, the post disappeared because there was no solid proof whatsoever, because it never happened. And, it's unfortunate. At the same time, I know my purpose. I know my truth. I know why I'm here, and no one's going to silence me. I'm going to continue to do what I'm passionate about. And I'm passionate about children. I'm passionate about people. Everyone who knows me knows that, and that's never going to change.
Well, I'm running for state rep in 131, and I say I'm the Stone Cold Steve Austin of Texas politics. I'm a cigarette smoking, beer drinking, talking all day long. And I'm going to be me. But I don't think it's very many people out there in the advocacy world or the activism world that do the work that I do on a daily basis. So I'm glad that you're saying that, because I really could care less what they say about me. And I'm pretty sure that you could care less, because most of the ones that are saying what they're saying, they're alcoholics. They have infidelity problems. They're undercover racists. You see what I'm saying? So me, Absolutely. I am what I'm what you get on a daily basis. I mean, I don't really care. I'm not going to change who I am for anybody, and you shouldn't have to change who you are. So I appreciate that comment. Let's go over to a area that I know Fort Bend is not in compliance in. They're in violation of state and federal law. I know this for a fact, which is the special ed arena. It takes a very special person to deal with spec ed kids. It takes a very special school district to not leave those kids behind. What do you think should be done to get Fort Bend ISD up to a level of compliance as it pertains to special ed?
Absolutely. So, my 2-year-old, he was involved in a very bad accident last year, and he had to learn how to walk again and everything. So he's in therapy every week, almost every day. And that's something that I deal with, and it's something that I worry about, because I see him. Even today, we were at McDonald's and he was engaging with other kids, and he should be doing what they're doing, but he's not. He's not there yet. And I talked to a lot of parents over, the past few weeks who kids are in special ed. One lady in particular, she's a paraprofessional. And she mentions to me how, they don't have enough support. Even though there's, multiple aides in the classroom, she was assigned to 2 students and they were both autistic. She showed me the bite marks on her body, the things that she had, trying to deal with 2 students, both autistic, and they're bigger than her, overpowering her, and she's not getting the help that she needs. I understand some of it is on staffing. At the same time, we still have to protect everyone. So we have to protect our students. We have to protect those that's there to teach them as well. So I also, talked to this other lady, and she told me, I'm ready to leave. I've been doing this for 30 something years, and I'm looking for another trade. I love special education. I love my students, but I can't survive. And, what I'm realizing is that the focus it's on the funding that we're getting, but it's not focused on actually implementing what we need to make it successful. And we have to protect everyone. We have to address everyone. And we have the right people in place. When I hear these stories, I hear the passion. I want to be here. I want to stay here. I want to help. But the help that they need from the administrators and the board is not there. So we have to fill in that gap. Special education has to be at the top, and it's not. If you look even at the budget plan, mental health, that was all the way at the bottom. We'll take care of that in 2023. Why is it all the way at the end? It's not at the beginning. We just went through a pandemic where everyone was basically locked in a box. We have teachers out on grievances. Why not ask them what's wrong? Why not ask them what's wrong? Why are we just keeping them on grievances instead of talking to them, helping them, and bringing them back into the classroom where they want to be? That's the problems we have in this district.
From a financial standpoint, I believe that a first-year teacher should make $70,000. That's what I believe. I believe that paying them 50, 60,000 is peanuts by the time they get hit with taxes, with their retirement. You know, they give them a raise. They eat the raise up through healthcare costs. How much do you think? Because they should make. That's a question. And do you think that there should be an increase in pay for custodians as well as bus drivers?
Absolutely. So I know a lot of people say, pay isn't important. Pay is important because at the end of the day, we still have to, our existence, depends on it. We have to pay our bills. We have to feed ourselves. We need, fuel for our transportation to get to and from work. Most of our teachers have children. They have daycare expenses. They have medical expenses. So, cost of living, it changes. All of that is happening and it's changing. And guess what? The foundation of our country, which is the education that we need, the people behind it are not getting paid. In this school district, like you said, most of the people in Fort Bend is not hard on money. Why are we not paying our educators? If I lost my job today, tomorrow I would be at the workforce looking for another trade. And that comes through education. Someone has to teach me that. So why are we not paying the people that are keeping our country running the right way? It doesn't make sense. Year over year, they should be getting increases. When they come in, even though it's their first year teaching, what we're paying them, they can make more money at Home Depot. Like, we need to look at that. School bus drivers. I'm a truck driver. I teach CDL school on a daily basis. I'm a teacher. The pay that they're paying these bus drivers, if you want your drivers to stop coming over there to get a CDL and leave and go work somewhere else, you need to value them. These drivers, they're not just driving a school bus. They have to deal with children. They have to deal with people speeding past them. They have to deal with narrow streets. They have to deal with, trying to make sure the kids get home safe. At the same time, there's other things going on while they're on the roadways. We have to do more for them. On top of the drivers, you have helpers on the buses. You have special ed kids on the buses. There's a lot going on. The pay needs to compensate everything that they're doing. Most of our teachers, when they leave school, they take their work at home. They're still working. And this is all we're giving them, a $500 raise. They don't even see it. Like, that's a joke.
Here's my thing, because you got your bus drivers that's going to watch this. I'm never taking this video down. You got your teachers that's going to watch this, your custodians. The average custodian is making about $15 an hour. I'm going to put you on the spot. How much should they be making?
22 entry level.
Okay. So that's the bus drivers.
No, that's custodian.
Okay, custodians about 15. So bus drivers, how much should they be making?
So bus drivers start out 52,000.
Say that again.
52,000.
Shit, I want to drive the bus now.
CDL drivers. They are first of all, they are professionals. They're a licensed. Not anyone can just drive a school bus. You have to go through school for that. You have to get certain endorsements. You have to protect children. These are our most prized possessions. And you're giving them bottom dollar.
So I want the people to make sure we understand. Shell McClue says that custodians should be making a minimum of $22 an hour. Bus drivers should be making $52,000. Now let's go and just shake the game up. A first-year teacher, and we know if we start at first year, then we look at the step raises for the number of years they've been there, including their degrees and all that. First-year teacher, on an average, $55,000 to $57,000. What should they be making?
They should be making at minimum $75,000 a year. They can go and work at T-Mobile and be a store manager and make more.
Wow. I like you because I'm right at about 70,000. You know, and if you've been in the district 15, 20 years, you're going to be up there making money. Now they're going to say, we can't afford to do that. Yes, you can.
Yes, we can.
Those people that you're hiring in the administrative office, you're bringing them in at six figures, and they can't put a square peg in a round hole.
Absolutely.
So I believe, thank you, because teachers need to hear this. You have a lady sitting here that believes that a first-year teacher should make $75,000 a year, especially in a district that's really not that big like Fort Bend. You can afford to pay these teachers. And if a board member is saying, well, I don't believe that, well, you get your money under the table. You don't care what nobody make.
Right.
And I'm telling the truth. You know, they want us all to believe, which me, I wouldn't take any money under the table. I'm not sure you wouldn't take any money either under the table. I know you wouldn't. But there are board members that sit on the Fort Bend ISD school board that get funding under the table. This is why certain contracts get pushed through. This is why certain contracts are set up to where they're not voted on, because they kick them back the money. I think that you would do great on the school board. I think with you sitting on that school board, you and Rick and Danetta Williams, and I think business could pick up. The one thing that concerns me about politics, and it's always been that way, but they couldn't infiltrate me. You couldn't infiltrate me while I was just running, let alone infiltrate me if I would have won. The thing that concerns me the most is how we as voters and constituents get abandoned after, people win their positions. Now, all of a sudden, they don't answer the phone, or they don't want to answer questions and different things. Do you believe that constituents should have more talking time in school board meetings? Because the first thing they're going to scream is we have to talk about closing the achievement gap. Well, you're not talking about that in a school board meeting. But yet at the same time, you want to regulate how much we can talk because you don't want us to have a voice. Will you fight to increase the amount of time that constituents can speak in a school board meeting? Because across the country as well, across Texas, I've been everywhere. So it's not like we're locked in at 2 to 3 minutes. I've been in some buildings where I got 5 minutes. So, to say this is what TEA wants, TEA doesn't run your school district. And as long as you spend the amount of time that you need to spend, talking about closing the achievement gap, then you need to increase the time. Will you do something? Will you fight for something like that?
Absolutely. I feel like it's necessary. We need to hear from those that we serve. And what's a better way to do it when everyone's listening? You have all of our attention.
Now the schools on, I get it confused in Fort Bend. Um, Schools like where Marshall and Willow Ridge are, that's the east, west. What side of town is that?
That's the East District.
The East District is grossly underserved. I don't care what anybody tells me about Fort Bend ISD. The east side of Fort Bend ISD is grossly underserved. Willow Ridge was an institution within itself for many, many moons. One of the, great athletic basketball programs, one of the top bands in the country. And to me, the school district has just destroyed that. Marshall High School is, what can we say, man? One of the best athletic programs in the country. And yet you got to fight just to get Title I funding for those schools when they are entitled to it. In Fort Bend, and I don't know if you know, but Fort Bend for many years had been taking the Title I funding from these types of schools and basically combining the Title I funding and sending it to other schools. Well, I know that for a fact because I had to fight with Stephanie Brown and a bunch of parents, and we had to make sure that those kids at Marshall that were economically disadvantaged got the money that they were entitled to. Will you continue that trend to fight for those kids on the east side because they are just left in the dark many days?
Absolutely. I mean, I don't understand why it is an issue. And that's one of the things that I will be focusing on. Because I know how important it is. I spoke to a young lady. Her name is Treasure. And she told me how she had to travel, I should say. She felt that she had to go to another school in another district so that she can get more opportunities for scholarships. She's going to school to be an attorney. So she wanted to travel to another school so that she can get more opportunities. Little did she know, the same opportunities that she would have gotten at another school, she could get it where she was. So that lets me know that these kids are not getting, they do have the same opportunities, but the people that we have in place to even allow them and educate them, they're not doing their job. And that's not okay. You have kids who really believe that they have to travel and go to these other schools in order to get a better education and a better opportunity. They have great teachers where they are. These schools are not bad schools. These kids are not bad kids. But it's the emphasis that the district is putting in how they highlight and edify the other schools that makes them feel less than. And that's not okay. As a parent, I couldn't allow that to happen to my child. I have to say something. I have to stand up. And I'm going to do the same thing for your children. That's not okay. Your kids are not less than. Your schools are not less than. And we have to make sure that they are equally distributing all the funding that they have. The funding that's for that school, it needs to go and be invested into that school, not to the new high schools.
Well, I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to use Marshall High School as an example. Marshall, I'm an honorary Marshall Buffalo. They made me that because I fought for those kids, and I was actually in HISD fighting for those kids at Marshall. Marshall reminds me so much of Jackie A. Senior High School. There seems to be some underlying hatred for Marshall High School, and it comes from a district level. It comes from a community level. And it has a lot to do with the fact that those kids excel in sports and they're beating people on the football field. They're beating them on the track, on the track. And because of that, they penalize them. They don't treat them like they treat anybody else. I don't know another school district where you could win a state championship in track and the district not honor the kids. Until the community starts complaining, that's when the district honored those kids one year. And I sat there and I watched that. So if you're going to discriminate against them from an athletic standpoint, then I understand why you're doing what you are doing to them from an academic standpoint. I will say that Marshall High School is sending more kids to Division I college athletically than any other school in Fort Bend County. They are. They are starting to send players to the NFL. And the one thing I like about those Marshall graduates, they always come back. They always come back and help their school because they didn't forget what went on when they were there. I think the inequities in school is man-made. So how do we create, and this is the biggest question in the country, how do we create equity when it's really a man-made problem?
Yes. So you're right. It is man-made. We're taking away from one side and we're bringing it to the other side. It's not being equally distributed. And that's something that the school board has to take control of instead of allowing, obviously, the amount of funding that we have for the schools, it's being sent somewhere else. Because there's the funding that we get enough funding for all the schools in the district. So if all the schools in the district are not benefiting, that totally lets me know where the leverage is going. So Marshall shouldn't be behind on the programs. Willow Ridge shouldn't be behind. Dulles should not be behind. They should all have the same opportunities as all the other schools. So if they're not, then that means we're taking it out of the pot and we're putting it over here. And that's a huge concern of mine. Like you said, yes, they're doing great in sports, but they're also doing great in academics. And they're not highlighting that. Miss Stephanie Brown is the one who's highlighting it. She pushes it all the time. Those kids, I'm great. We're all grateful for her, because if it wasn't for her and her voice and her team, these kids, no one would know what's going on with them. You don't see them on the school board pages. You don't see them on Fort Bend pages. You don't see them on, any of the social media pages. They're not talking about these kids. And it's not okay, because they are great kids. And if it's not, we can't just sit aside as school board trustees and not allow all of the students in our district to feel as important as they are.
Let me say this, because one thing I like about you in this interview, you've not said anything bad about your opponents. The focus needs to be on you, and you've done a great job with that tonight. But I will say something bad about him. David, sometimes my mama say you got to keep your mouth closed. He said some things, and it really fired some people up. They said he was racially insensitive. Some things he said, I'm a conservative also, and I'm gonna ride with him on some of it, but some days you just can't say what you want to say when you're in politics. As far as Arjanelle, she's one of the ones who fought against Marshall High School getting Title I funding, knowing full well that school had about 75% of its population that was economically disadvantaged. She's ducked forum after forum. She will not answer people when they ask her certain questions. And if you can't answer the questions now, you're not going to answer the questions when you get in office. You're going to do exactly what you're doing now. So this is not Shell saying this about you, Arjanelle. This is Gary W. Monroe. Sue me. You're trash. You don't care about those kids. You definitely didn't care about those kids on the east side at all. You really did not want to give them the Title I funding is not coming out of the budget. That's additional funding just because they're poor. And why would you deny them that and now run a campaign and act like you don't know what you did? I applaud you because one, you ran a great campaign. I've never seen you say anything bad about anybody while you've been out campaigning. You just stuck to the issues, and that's the way you really find the right person. And I'm looking at comments from the other page where they're blocking this video on Fort Bend concerns. You know why you're blocking it? Because you can't stand the truth. You know why you're blocking it? Because your candidate that you're supporting does not give a damn about children. This is a mom of 8. And me and you, we cool because I used to drive trucks too. I'm 5'4" tall, and they thought it was a game until I got behind this, in that wheel, behind that wheel of that brand new Peterbilt I had. This is somebody who deals with 8 children every single day. Every single day. And sometimes that's the type of person that we need on the school board. So if she can deal with 8 kids every single day, she knows how to balance a budget in a household. So if she can balance a budget in the household, it might be a little simple to balance a budget for a school district. All it is putting money where it needs to go. That's all it is. Making sure you make sure every day all 8 of your kids have exactly what they need. As a school board trustee, you're going to make sure all the kids have exactly what they need across the district, not just one side of the district. So, is there anything else that you want to tell these people? Because tomorrow is showtime. Whenever I run for office, the night before I rest good and I wake up early, because I'm going to leave it on the floor. That's what I tell them. You're going to have to beat me on election day. And the thing about it is, you need to get out there early in the morning, move around, hit your polls, talk to your people, regardless of what they think. I told them when I ran for school board in November, if you do not put me on this school board, you are going to suffer. 7 months later, I look like a prophet. And if you don't put McClue on the school board, you are going to suffer. You are going to suffer. If you put Jim Rice back on, and you said something profound earlier. Y'all been around here for 10, 12 years, and look at where we at right now. So it ain't no way in hell they can say they know what they doing. Because if they did, we wouldn't be in the position that we in right now. Tell the people who you are, what you're running for, and why should they vote for you.
I'm McClue. I'm running for Fort Bend ISD School Board Trustee position 7. Election starts tomorrow. Tomorrow is the final day. I'm laying it all out on the table here because I want you to truly understand where I'm coming from. If you want to see improvements in your kids, not just your children, but also in the place where you live, because as a school district, we're not just also responsible for the schools, but also the district. Pay attention to everything that's been said, but also what has been done. That is what's important. We all can say a lot of things, but the action behind our words and what we truly mean is still 2 different things. Yes, we want change. If you don't get out there and vote for the change, it's not going to happen. If you want your kids to have a better life, a better opportunity, a better foundation, if you want to have pay increases, if you want to be valued all the way through, not just on 1 week where we have Teachers Appreciation Week, but the entire time that you are teaching, you have to get out and go vote. Otherwise, yesterday will continue to be tomorrow. If you want this change, you want someone who's actually going to stand up for you, listen to you, and work for you. Because that's what we all should be doing on the school board, is working for the district, not for our own personal gain and retirement funds. Go to the polls tomorrow. Let your voice be heard.
Well, I'm going to end it this way for you guys. I appreciate you, Shell, for taking the time out. I appreciate Rick for coming on. And I'm definitely supporting you guys. I've endorsed you. And like I said from the gate, that's a hard endorsement to get because I sit back and I watch. So if I didn't endorse you, F you. And everything that you about, because you're not about kids. And that's how I feel. And I'm not holding my tongue. But I will tell you this here. Everybody want to know, man, OG, what you're going to do is you're running for state rep. You're damn right. House District 131, I'm running for. And I'm going to push that wig back on my opponent. I'm going to make her straighten that wig up come November. Because I'm coming to get what's mine. Because I plan on going to Austin and changing some laws in education to make Shell's and Rick and Danetta's job a whole lot easier. Y'all better get ready because I'm not playing no games. So if you waiting for me to crank up, I'm cranking up officially next week. We're going to unleash the beast. Y'all already know how I get on. I'm gonna hit the hood like an old school crack dealer. You're going to see them signs everywhere. I don't care if you cut them down. I got plenty money to put them back up. It ain't going to stop me. So I wish you luck tomorrow, my friend. And anything that I can do to help you, you let me know because I think you'll do a fine job for the kids of Fort Bend ISD who deserve a whole lot better than what they've been getting. Shell McClue's made you some promises. Other people have made you promises. And especially in races where you have incumbents, they don't get to make promises. Look at what the hell they done did for the last 3 or 4 years. And if they didn't do their job, it's time to fire them. Say it's a reason why I'm the best in the business. Every night, 7 o'clock, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Say, man, you know who I am, man. Get on the phone and call somebody and tell them 5-star cranking it up next week. House District 131, I'm coming. And I'm going to get your wig right because I'm going to push it back, baby. I ain't holding nothing back. Shell McClue, OG telling you go out there and vote for her tomorrow. Go out there and vote for Rick Garcia. You want change? Change is sitting in your face. Until Monday, I'm going to holler at you.